Right, it's Thursday, it's cold, it's wet. It hasn't stopped raining for like a month. So, and I'm a bit hungover. So, therefore, the government's going to get it today. I've been saving this up for a while and making sure I got my facts right. So, on the 20th of September last year, Rishi Sunak, our unelected Prime Minister, who looks like Cousin Reggie from the Roland Rat Show, with great fanfare, said that he was pushing back the requirement for all vehicles sold to be electric to 2035. And everyone went, oh yes, Rishi, you're so wonderful, apart from the tree huggers who said that, you know, he's killing the planet and all that. He wouldn't exactly be straight though. There's a shock. I'm not going to call him a liar, just not telling the truth. Because on the 28th of September, 8 days later, he pushed through something called the Zero Emission Vehicle Mandate. And yeah, it's every bit as boring as it sounds. Except, in it, basically what it says is, all car manufacturers now, from this year onwards, have a quota of electric cars they have to sell. And they can only sell so many petrol cars. And once they reach the threshold, they get charged extra. So by 2030... it's 80% electric cars. You can only buy 20% petrol cars or diesel cars by 2030. That's law. And if you want to buy extra, and if they want to sell extra over that 20%, it's 15 grand a car. It's 7 grand. 7 grand? No, 18 grand for a van. 15 grand for a car, 18 grand for a van. So if, let's say Ford sell 1 million cars and they sell 200,000 petrol or diesel cars, every car they sell over that 200,000, they got to pay an extra 15 grand to the government for. Or if it's a Transit, which invariably it will be, it's Ford, 18 grand. And somebody somewhere has got to pay for it. And that's me and you. Nobody else is paying for it. They're going to stick that cost straight on top of the car. Therefore, making most cars unaffordable, or certainly not good value for money, to make you go and buy a milk float. And that's by 2030. Not 2035, 2030. Except it starts this year and it's a sliding scale. I wrote it down. In 2 years' time, 2026, 33% of all cars they sell must be milk floats. In 5 years' time, 2029, 66%. And in 6 years' time, 80%. So he hasn't pushed anything back. In fact, he's brought in another bit of legislation to move things forward. Because no one's going to sell cars. You can't buy, let's say it's a Ford Fiesta. They're going to stop making them anyway. But let's say it's a Ford Fiesta for 25 grand. That's going to be 40 grand. No one's paying 40 grand for a Fiesta. So therefore, everything at the bottom end of the market is going to be priced out the market. Of course, it's not going to affect Bentley. It's not going to affect Aston Martin. They'll stick 15 grand on the cost of a Vanquish. Nobody's going to care. If you're paying 165 grand, what's another 15? Whereas the bottom end, where most people are, you're going to get screwed. Because it's all about screwing the motorist. And it's all about stopping us going anywhere, doing anything, or going any great distances. Because you'll have your 15-minute city by 2030. 2030, though, just happens to be the United Nations Agenda 2030. That's what it's called. So it's no coincidence that Sunak's bought that in to match that. So there you go. Milk floatery forced upon you. Somebody commented, actually, on one of my posts and said, did the Victorians have to ban horses to make people buy motor cars? What a brilliant analogy that is. No, they didn't. It's simple. People had to choose. And they chose if they wanted a motor car. And they chose if they wanted to stay on a horse. We aren't going to be given that choice. That choice is being taken away. And that's what grippeth my shitteth. And then on top of that, just in case you didn't think that was enough, if you own a car registered from 2017 onwards, in April, your road tax is going to go up to a maximum of 190 quid. So anyone that's bought a new or nearly new car, 5 years old, you're only going to pay 190 quid in road tax. However, if you're a poor person, or like me, you like driving around in a 1998 Spider, tough. Your tax is going through the roof. The top tax bracket is going up to 735 quid for anything registered after 2001. So 2001 to 2016, anything up to 735 quid. Most of them are going up by 145 quid. So if you're currently paying 145 quid, that's going up to 290 in April. It's another tax on poor people. It's not a tax on the rich, because they've all got new Range Rovers and they're only paying 190 quid now, which makes no sense when I think my last Range Rover tax was 640 quid a year. But now you're all right if you buy a newer one, because you've got plenty of money. You're all right. You'll be all right. We'll look after you. It's just bizarre. It's like we're living in Robin Hood times and it's being run by the sheriff of Nottingham. I might have to turn into a fat Robin Hood. So there you go. Look it up for yourselves if you don't believe me, because I'm sure you milk floaters will be, yeah, oh no, he's being disingenuous. This is misinformation, which is another word for bollocks. Zero Emission Vehicle Mandate. Google it. It comes up. There's a consultation where they asked all the motor manufacturers what they thought. And then they said to the motor manufacturers, you best agree with us or else we're going to tax you extra. So they agreed with them and then they taxed them extra anyway. So Zero Emission Vehicle Mandate. By 2030, 80% of all cars have to be electric. And if you want to buy a petrol one, you're going to pay 15 grand extra in tax on top. Just for the privilege of not having to sit by the side of a motorway for half an hour every hour. Because as the milk floaters revealed when I did my fishing experiment on Monday, when I charged a car outrageously to 95% and was called an idiot because you only ever charge to 80% because the last 20% takes too long. But the range is based on 100%, not 80%. So if the range is 160 miles and you're only charging to 80%, you're knocking 20% off the range. So the range is now 128 miles, not 160 miles. So that doesn't work. And not only does it not work, as this enlightened individual told me, no, you charge 50 or 60% and then you just make another stop. Hey, what? You want me to stop twice for at least half an hour, if not 3/4 of an hour, when I could just go into a petrol station, fill up in 5 minutes and drive the whole distance in one go, or take a milk float, stop for 3/4 of an hour, stop again for 3/4 of an hour, and take an extra hour and a half to get there. And that's not including the fact, because I guarantee he doesn't drive at 70 mile an hour. He's driving at 55, because that's how you get the maximum range. It's also boring, dull, blocks up the motorways, and takes longer to get there. We've just spent 120 billion quid so you can get from London to Birmingham 20 minutes quicker. 120 billion quid to save 20 minutes because time is that precious. Unless, of course, you're driving a car. Then time is irrelevant because you get in a milk float, it takes longer to drive, it takes longer to charge up, it takes longer to get there. And when you get there, you're teasy because of how long it took you to get there in the first place. Absolute crap. As a fat man once said, future my arse.